Well, it's been a spectacular 12 months for ASX listed Azure Minerals. The company only acquired its exciting nickel copper cobalt asset last year, and exploration to date certainly hasn't been disappointing. I'm Paul Hunt, Senior Journalist at Aspermont, and I had the pleasure of flying out to the Andover project this year. Today, I'm joined by Azure Managing Director, Tony Rivera. Tony, good to have you with me.
Thanks, Paul. Good to be here.
To start, perhaps you could give us a little insight in how Azure managed to acquire the Andover project.
Certainly. Around about 2 years ago, we were busy exploring and developing projects in Mexico, and then COVID came along and made it very difficult to operate over there. The company made a decision that we would pivot from Mexico back into Western Australia and make Western Australia our main focus. So we put our projects in Mexico on care and maintenance, and we came back here to Western Australia and we said, well, we need some projects. So who has projects? Well, the world famous and very successful mining entrepreneur, Mark Creasy, has lots of projects. So I approached Mark, who I've known for many, many years, and I asked him if he had anything that he might consider vending into Azure. And after a bit of toing and froing, we agreed that he would put in one nickel project, which is the Andover nickel project, and 3 gold projects. And we closed the deal in around about July last year, July 2020. We were on the ground in August, and we were drilling in October. And it's just been full steam ahead since then. And just about every drill hole we're drilling is hitting nickel. It's one of the most fantastic deals that I've ever done.
Well, how many holes have you drilled? Because last count it was about 130.
Yes, it's as of now, we're just pre-Christmas in 2021. We've drilled and completed 138 diamond drill holes in that. And of those, I would have to say approximately 120 probably would have hit some really good nickel and copper sulfide mineralization. So incredibly successful.
Just this month, you released some results from 2 drill holes that you drilled recently. One of them was at a prospect called Skyline. Can you tell us about that?
Certainly, and I might just take a little step backwards and say that we've actually drilled into 4 main target areas, and each of those target areas was identified by electromagnetic surveying, which defined bodies of electromagnetic conductivity buried in the bedrock. And we've identified those 4 projects we've identified are VC7 East, VC7 West, Skyline, and VC23. And all 4 of those we've drilled, and all 4 of those have hit good mineralization. VC7 East is the most advanced of those. So that is now a full-blown nickel copper deposit. We've drilled 102 drill holes into VC7 East. And that data is now with our consultants, and they're doing a mineral resource estimate as we speak. And meanwhile, the drill rigs, and we have 3 of them operating, 2 of them were drilling on VC7 West to take that to a resource status. And then the 3rd one was doing regional exploration drilling, and it moved out to those 2 other prospects, VC23 and Skyline, and it's hit really good nickel sulfide mineralization in both of those as well. So that which augurs well for potentially more resources to be defined with further drilling. And the Skyline, which is the one that you just mentioned, Paul, is fascinating because it was a body of mineralization that we picked up as part of a follow-up surface electromagnetic survey, which we were actually looking for something else or in a slightly different area. And we picked up an anomaly. We just expanded that survey a little bit, showed that there was very strong conductivity under this ridgeline. And we drilled the 3 holes into Skyline, and all 3 hit really good mineralization. And what we've just seen now is that that's the 4th discovery that we've made on the Andover project, which is quite amazing.
Well, looking to the first quarter of next year, what does Azure have for us, and when can we expect this maiden resource?
Well, we're working on the resource at the moment, and I expect that will be ready for delivery to the market in February or March of the first quarter of next year. And that's fairly straightforward. And once that's announced, obviously we'll have a measurable resource in the ground that people will be able to assess, the company's merits on that basis. But in the meantime, we're actually still drilling, or we will be drilling once we get going after the new year. And once again, we'll keep drilling on the VC7 West to take that through to resource status. And on VC7 23 on Skyline, we'll continue to drill on those two prospects as well to enlarge the mineralised bodies we've identified. But in addition to that, we probably have another 10 or 15 good-looking targets elsewhere on the property that have never been drilled. So we've got a really large program of regional exploration and regional drilling that we need to continue to do throughout next year. So I expect that there's not only, in addition to the mineral resource, we're going to have a lot of new discoveries and new exploration news to announce to the market throughout the year.
When I visited Andover, one of the interesting things that I saw was its location. It's actually quite easy to get places. It's quite close to ports, so you wouldn't need to build too much infrastructure. Can you tell me a little bit about the location of Andover?
Absolutely. This is one of the great benefits of this project, its location. Let's take a 2-hour plane flight from Perth to Karratha, and then we get on the Northwest Coastal Highway and we drive east out of Karratha for half an hour and you're on the project. Half an hour's drive from the nearest airport. And then once you're on the project area, there's really good access throughout it with roads and tracks. And in addition to that, we've got mobile phone coverage throughout the property. There's scheme power, water, transport facilities and ports nearby. So everything you could possibly want for an exploration project or even a mining project are located within probably half an hour's drive of the Andover project. You could not get a better located asset in the mining business.
So you mentioned that maybe in March we might be seeing the first resource estimate of one of the 4 prospects at Andover. What happens after the resource estimate is delivered? I'm presuming it's a feasibility study, or what happens next?
Well, we have a number of things running in parallel. Obviously, we still have the exploration drilling that's going on, testing the regional targets. We also have the resource drilling that we're doing on the VC7 West deposit right now. The intention would be to take that through to a maiden mineral resource for VC7 West deposit by the middle of the year. So at that stage, we'll have 2 deposits with mineral resources on them. Contemporaneously with all of that, we're also undertaking development studies with the intention of having a scoping study ready for publication around the middle to the 3rd quarter of next year. And hopefully within that scoping study, we'll have not only the VC7 East resource, which is being done now, but we'll put the VC7 West resource in there and maybe some others as well, which will give us a very strong economic case to see whether this is a mining project that's going to get up and running. So just in addition to that is that there could be more discoveries being made as well. So this thing can just keep on getting bigger and better. And so far, it's just a project that just keeps on giving.
How's the company positioned financially to continue its plans into next year? Will you need to do a capital raise or have you got enough cash in the bank?
Well, at the start of the current quarter, here at where we are now in December 2021, we had $24 million still in the bank. I would expect that we'll have a very significant cash balance still at the end of 2022. So it's unlikely that we foresee having to do a capital raise during 2022. But of course, everything's up in the air when it comes to opportunity. And if we have something that is really positive economically, being developed through the scoping study and we're moving into a feasibility study, then yes, at some stage in the future, we will need to raise capital, but it's not on our agenda at the moment.
It's been a really busy 12 months for the mining sector broadly. Azure has seen a fairly significant share price rise as well. How have you found investor sentiment?
It's been very strong for the last probably 18 months, not just for Azure, but just across the board. There's been a very strong wave of support for exploration and mining companies in Western Australia and throughout Australia. It's been fantastic support for our industry, and let's hope that continues well into the future as well. But specifically for Azure, yes, we've got a very strong supporter base. We have 2 very strong and very supportive major shareholders in a German investment fund, Deutsche Balaton, and Mark Creasy as well. And they've shown great support for us throughout the last year or so. And we expect that that support's going to continue, particularly as we can have ongoing success with the Andover project. So it's a really good position to be in, but also the commodities that Azure is focused on at the moment, being at Andover is nickel, copper, and cobalt, and they are the new clean and green energy metals of the future that we're all looking forward to as part of this decarbonisation process that Australia and the world is going through. So if we can come up with really substantial resources of those commodities, then that will put the company in a very strong position.
Well, what is your outlook for nickel and copper?
Oh, I'd have to say very positive. It's looking like the demand for those commodities, for those metals, is going to keep increasing as we look to build our battery storage capability throughout Australia and the world. So the demand will go up. Supply is fairly constant and constrained. So that should mean if demand's going up, that the prices should go up, and that's going to be good for all of the companies like ours that are involved in that particular sector.
Tony Rivera, we are out of time. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Paul. It's been a pleasure.
Tony Rivera is the Managing Director of Azure Minerals, which is listed on the ASX under the ticker AZS. You can find out more at azureminerals.com.au.